Alright, today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting integers. So, first, let's take a look at this. It says we can use algebra tiles to add positive and negative integers. So right now, this problem right here says 4 plus negative 2 equals 2. Now, we can cancel out pairs. So what that means is we can, since we have more positives than we have negatives, we can combine them to make something called a zero pair. So when we have one positive and one negative, those cancel out and they make a zero pair. So we go until we only have one color left, and so what we have left is 2. So 2 positives, so they're green. So 4 plus negative 2 equals 2. So that's how we would do this with algebra tiles. So this equation right here, we can say that we have 3 positives and we have 6 negatives. So what this says is 3 plus negative 6. Now, we don't really want to write it like that, because if you wrote 3 plus negative 6 like that, it would look like 3 plus minus 6. And that can get a little confusing. So we're going to throw these parentheses around it just so we know what's going on. Alright, now if I wanted to solve this, again, we can make our zero pairs. And so we're going to combine all these red and greens until all that I have left is one color. Alright, so now I have 3 reds left. So what that means is that 3 plus negative 6 is negative 3. Alright, so let's take a look at this. So we can try it. So drag the algebra tiles to show and solve each equation. Remember, the green tiles are positive 1 and the red tiles are negative 1. So we got 6 reds, so 5, 6, and then we have 3 greens. Alright, so then it says we want to solve. So this says negative 6 plus 3. So you should be able to look at this and know that we're going to have a negative answer because I have more negatives here. So I'm going to make my zero pairs. And so what I have left is 3 red ones. So 3 red ones represents negative 3. Okay. Now we have this one saying 5 negatives. So 5 reds. Now we want to go plus negative 3. So now we got 3 of these. So we look at this and we say, well, I don't have any positives, so I can't make any zero pairs. So I just count up how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's my answer. So I have negative 8. So negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. Alright, if we go down here, we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive greens, and 1, 2 negative reds. Make our zero pairs, so we get that. And I have left over 3 positives. So my answer to 5 plus negative 2 is 3. And our last one over here, we have 4 positives and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 negatives. So you should see that I got a lot more negatives, so my answer is probably going to be a negative, but let's check it out and see. So make my zero pairs. So I have 4 reds left, so that means I have negative 4 as my answer. So negative 8 plus 4 equals negative 4. So that's how we do it with our algebra tiles. Alright, we could also do it on a number line. So if I wanted to add 3 plus 5, I start at 3 on the number line and move 5 spaces to the right. So if you notice, alright, so since this says we want to start at 3, that's going to be our first number, and we're counting how far we moved to the right, and since we went to the right, that means we added 5, or we added something, so a positive number. We added a positive number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then since we ended on 8, that's what we get. So again, started on 3. We went 5 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since we moved to the right on the number line, that means we added a positive number. And we're always adding. So we got 8. So if we look at this one, it says when you add a positive number, you move to the right on the number line. Here is how we find out the answer to negative 5 plus 10. So again, always wherever you're starting at, that's your starting point. So that's negative 5. So this would be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. And you count how far you went over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that means negative 5 plus 10 equals, and then you ended on positive 5. So that's how we did negative 5 plus 10. And then we know that that equals 5. Alright, so if we want to show each problem on the number line, we use the red dots for the starting point, blue for the addition, and green dots for the answer. So click on the problem to see the answer once we get it. So negative 6 is where we want to start. So 1, so here's 0, so since it's negative, it means we move to the left. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. We can put that above it. And then we're going to have and since we're adding positive 4, that means we're going to move our shape. We're going to move our shape 4 spaces to the right. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. And so there's my ending point. So there's where my green one should go. And so if we count this, that means we were 1, 2, negative 2. So let's check if we got that right. So there you go. Nice job. Alright, if we take this one, we want to go to negative 8 first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it says we want to go plus 9. And put that there. If we want to go plus 9, then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to end right there. So there's my green dot. And so since that's 1 to the right of the 0, that means it's a positive since it moves to the right. Check that one. Nice job. And our last one, we have negative 3, so 1, 2, 3. So we're right there. And we're going to have our arrow, which is for the plus 7. We're going to move that 7 places, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's where we're going to end up. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to say that negative 3 plus 7 is 4. We'll check it. Nice job. So that's how we graph it using one line when we're adding positive number. Right now, if we move to the right when adding a positive number, that means you must do the opposite, which is move to the left when adding a negative. So it's kind of like flipping around backwards. So in this example, they started at 5, added a negative 3. So since it was negative, they moved left 3, and then ended on the 2. So adding a negative number moves you to the left on the number line. So again, started at negative 2, added a negative, so you're going left. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ends at negative 7. So that's what that all means. Alright, so if we want to show this one, same thing we did with the other one. So always start where it says. So since 4 is the first number, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where we're going to start. We're adding a negative, so that means we're moving left. So we'll start there. And, oh, whoops, messed up. Start over. Alright, so start on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Adding a negative, so we want to try and hold on to this. Alright, so add negative 3, so 1, 2, 3. So that's where I'm going to end. So that's 1 to the right, so 4 plus negative 3, I'm going to say is positive 1. Nice job. Alright, since I have a negative 1 as my first one, that's where I'm going to start. So we're going to start right here. I'm adding a negative, so that means I'm going to move to the left. And since it was a 5, that means we're going 5 to the left. So we're just going to count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll put my green dot down here. So now we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're ending at -6, so that's what I'm going to say my answer is. -6. Alright, and our last one right here. We have +1 plus a -7. Maybe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to put my green dot down there. And I can look at that and I can say, well, that looks like a -6. And see, and in fact it is. Okay. Alright, now, we can try these problems without the number line. So it says write your answer in the line, then erase to see if you're correct. Now, when we solve like this, you need to look, and if you are, whenever you're adding, we look at the signs. We have one positive and one negative, and if they're different signs, we subtract the two and take the sign of the bigger absolute value, so the one that has the most positives or the most negatives in it. So we have a positive and a negative here. So this is 17 minus, or plus a -12. So those are opposites. So we're going to subtract them. So 17 minus 12 is 5. I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger one. So 17 had more positives than 12. So I'm going to say that that answer is 5. Okay, different signs again. So subtract. 6 minus 3 is 3. And since I had more negatives, I'm going to keep it as negative. Different signs. So 11 minus 5 is 6. I had more negatives. Different signs. 10 minus 8 is 2. I had more negatives. And different signs. 20 minus 6 is 14, and I had more positives. So those are what I'm saying the answer is. Let's check out and see if we got it right. 5, -3, -6, -2, and 14. Nice job. Alright, and over here, same signs. So now when we have same signs, that means we add the two numbers together and keep the sign that's there. So 10 plus, so -10 and -5, so that's -15. Since 10 plus 5 is 15, and then we keep the negative sign. So -7 and -3, same signs. So that's a 10. Keep the negative sign. -22 plus -22. So we get a 44. And then we keep the negative sign. 16 plus -20, different signs. So we go back to doing it like we did over here, where different signs we subtract when they don't have it. So 20 minus 16 is 4. And you gotta look and see which one had more in it, the positives or the negatives. So I had more negatives. So I'm gonna say -4. And over here, that answer is gonna be -13. So again, let's check and make sure we got it right. -15, -10, -44, -4, and -13. Alright. So now that we've learned how to add integers, let's learn how to subtract them. So it says when you subtract a positive integer, you must move left on a number line. For example, the equation 5 minus 3. We start at 5, move left, which is subtract 3, and end up at 2. So that's what all these say. 5, so start at 5, you're moving left because you're going minus, and you ended up at 2. 4 minus 7. So this is all stuff you guys should have learned before, because this is just basic subtraction. So start at -4, like this says. 1, 2, 3, 4. And since it says -1, that means I'm going to move left because I'm subtracting a positive. And I'm only going to go 1. So that's going to put me right there. So I'm going to say that. So I'm going to say my answer is -4 minus 1 is a -5. Alright, again. So we're starting at 1. Minusing, so minus means you move to the left, and since it's a positive number, that means I'm just going to stay that same way. So -8, so that means I need to go 8 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, 7, 8. And so now I'm going to end on 1, let's see, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Okay, ends up on negative 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We didn't go far enough. 7. Alright, negative 7. Alright, and your last one. 3, 1, 2, 3. Minus negative 9. Just going to put it right there, and that's going to end up on negative 6. So 3 minus 9 is negative 6. Alright, now, if we move to the left when we subtract a positive, that means we move to the right when we subtract a negative. So, this means what we just said. So if you think about it, a negative is just the opposite. So if you're subtracting a positive and you move left, the opposite, which is of a positive, is a negative, and the opposite of moving left is moving right. So that's what we just said here. So 1 minus negative 4 is positive 5. Negative 1 minus negative 5, positive 4. Negative 4 minus negative 3, negative 1. Alright, so we're going to take a look at this. Start at the 2. You're minusing a negative, so that's making me go to the right. A negative 5, so that means 5 left, 5 it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm gonna end right here. So we can go ahead and stretch our arrow. So that's gonna end up at 7. Alright, this one's starting at negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bring our arrow down. So I'm going to the right 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go ahead and stretch my arrow out. So that looks like it's going to be a positive 2. And your last one over here, negative 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring your arrow down. And we're going to go to the right 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Go ahead and stretch our arrow, and that looks like it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4. Alright. Alright, so same thing here. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick, because I hate subtracting by negatives. So I'm going to use something called stay, change, opposite. So what that means is the first number stays the same. I'm going to change my minus to a plus, and then I'm going to take my opposite of the second number, because I think it's a lot easier to add than it is to subtract. So I'm going to go 6, so stay. I'm going to change my minus to a plus, and I'm going to take the opposite of negative 3, so that's 3. So 6 plus 3 is 9. Over here, stay, change the minus to a plus, negative 6. The opposite is 6, so 11 plus 6 is 17. Stay, the opposite of minus is plus, and then the opposite of negative 3, positive 3 is 3. So this is negative 8 plus negative 3, same signs, add them together, keep the sign. 5 minus 8, stay, change the minus to a plus, opposite is negative 8. Different signs, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger one. Stay, change, opposite of negative 12 is 12. Different, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger. And stay, change, opposite. So 10 plus 10 is 20. So let's check that out and see, make sure we got it right. So we said 9, 17, negative 11, negative 3, 10, and 20. So we got those all right. Alright, now we also have negative 11 minus 6. So stay, change, opposite, same signs, keep the sign of what you had. Negative 11 plus positive 6, different sign, subtract, so that's 5, keep the sign of the bigger one. Stay, change, the opposite of negative 20 is 20. Different signs, so subtract, 20 minus 20 is 0. You can't have a negative 0 or a positive 0, so we're just going to leave it like that. Stay, change, the opposite. Different signs, keep the sign of the one that had the most. stay, change, opposite. So I'm going to say that one is or positive 7. And the last one, stay, change, opposite. Say negative 25. Okay, let's check. Negative 17, negative 5, 0, negative 11, 7, and negative 25. So that was that. Alright, so did you notice that adding a negative number is the same as subtracting a positive? So that's what we just talked about, that stay, change, opposite. And did you notice that subtracting a negative number is the same as adding? So that's exactly what we just talked about on that last page, stay, change, opposite. We can use these facts to rewrite problems. Because like I said, I always think that it's easier to do addition. So I'm always going to change everything to addition. But for this, just to show you what it is when you change, you can do stay, change, opposite for either one. So if you like to subtract, you can. So I can rewrite this as 7 plus negative 3 equals 4. I can write this one as 7 plus 3 equals 10. I can write this as 8 minus 3 equals 5. And I can write this one as 8 minus a negative 3 equals 11. So we can do that with all those. Alright, so it says draw a line to match each expression to its rewritten form. So if I change this one, stay, change, opposite, so the first number always stays the same, that would change to a minus, and the opposite is a 3. So I'm looking for a negative 4 minus 3. So that would be right there. Stay, change, opposite for this one would be a negative 4, change that to a plus, a negative 3. Remember, we always put those parentheses around it to keep them apart. So that's way down here. So negative 4 minus a negative 3. It's way up at the top. 3 plus a negative 4. You are over here. 3 minus a negative 4 up here. And then this one, 3 plus 4. There you go. Alright, so this one's just a couple practice problems, so go ahead and see if you can figure this out, and when you get it, we'll come back and I'll give you the answer. Alright, welcome back. This says, which shows the equation for the model that's represented below. White tiles are positive 1, black tiles negative 1. So I have 3 negatives plus 2 positives, and we could add those together, different signs, so we subtract them. 3 minus 2 is 1. Keep the sign in the bigger one. So you were negative 3 plus 2. So that was our answer. Alright, so go ahead and try this. We'll come back. So this is 5 plus a negative 4. If you were to solve it, different signs. So subtract. So 5 minus 4 is 1. And then keep the sign in the bigger one, so that equals 1. So that is our answer there. Alright, 4 plus negative 12. So different signs. So 4 plus negative 12, we have a positive and we have a negative. So we have to subtract. So that's going to be an 8. And then you have to keep the one that had the most. So this had 4 positives, this had 12 negatives. So there's more negatives, so it stays negative 8. Alright, so on all these you should pause it and then come back when you're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So this says 6 plus negative 13, different signs. So 13 minus 6 is 7. And I had 6 positives and 13 negatives, so I had more negatives. So we go negative 7. Negative 8 plus negative 15, same signs, add them together, keep the sign. Oh, sorry, got that wrong. Negative 8, or 8 plus 15 is 23. Keep that sign. And then our final one here, we're just going to do order of operations. We're going to do it side to side. So negative 4 plus 9 plus a negative 3. We're going to do negative 4 plus 9 first. So different signs, so we're going to subtract them. 9 minus 4 is 5. I had more positive, so I'm going to keep it, and then just rewrite everything I didn't use. So now 5 plus negative 3, different signs. So go ahead and subtract those. 5 minus 3 is 2. I had more positives, so this would be my answer. All right, so that was adding and subtracting integers. I hope that worked out well for you. If not, please come and ask me some questions.